The hospital monitor went flat. The doctor said the words no one wants to hear. He's gone. Then my phone rang. I wasn't supposed to hear anything. No sounds, no voices, no ringing phones. Because I was dead at least. That's what everyone thought. It's a strange feeling, being a ghost in your own story. My body was lying on a hospital bed, motionless, while my mind was just floating, watching my family cry, watching the nurses look away with that sad, professional pity. I wanted to tell them I was okay, that I was still here, but I was just a silent observer. It was like watching a movie where you're the main character, but you have no lines and no control over the plot. The world kept moving, but I was stuck in a single, silent frame. My phone was on the table next to the bed. It was a simple, mundane object in a room filled with life and death machinery, but in that moment, it was the only thing that seemed real. No one touched it. The screen was dark. No notifications popped up. No alarms went off. It just sat there. Then, it started vibrating. A quiet hum against the wood. The screen lit up. Just one incoming call. Unknown number. My family was too consumed by grief to notice. The doctor was filling out paperwork, but I saw it. I felt it. A single, persistent call from nowhere, reaching into the space between everything. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I couldn't even twitch a finger. But I could think. And somehow, I could hear. The phone kept ringing, vibrating on that small table. Each vibration felt louder than the last, like a drumbeat echoing in the void I was in. It was the only anchor I had to the world I was leaving behind. I remember thinking how absurd it was. You're pronounced dead, and the first thing that happens is you get a spam call. But this didn't feel like spam. It felt important. It felt like a lifeline being thrown into the dark, and I had no hands to catch it. I just had to listen and wait. The call stopped. The screen went dark for a second, then lit up again. A voicemail notification appeared. One new message. I don't know how, but I listened. It wasn't through my ears. It was like the sound just appeared in my consciousness, clear as day. And the voice, it was so familiar it ached. It was my grandfather's voice. He'd passed away years ago, he said, with that same gentle, firm tone he always used. Please wake up. You're not done yet. Just those few words, and then silence. It wasn't a memory. It was new. It was happening right then. It was a message from somewhere else, telling me to turn back. My sister's wedding, where I gave a clumsy but heartfelt speech. The smell of my mom's cooking on a Sunday afternoon. A road trip with my best friends, singing off-key to the radio, my dog waiting by the door, and then, all the unfinished plans. The book I was halfway through writing, the trip to Japan I kept putting off. Things I kept saying I'll do later, and in that moment, I understood with a terrifying clarity that later had just run out. Later never came. All those little promises to myself were about to be broken forever. The phone rang again. This time, the vibration seemed to shake the whole room, at least from my perspective. It was louder, more urgent. I focused on the screen, a tiny beacon of light in the dim hospital room, and this time, the screen showed a name. My heart, or whatever was left of it, stopped. It was my name. My own name was calling me. I can explain the feeling of seeing your own contact photo pop up on your phone when you were supposedly gone from the world. It was terrifying, confusing, and for some reason, it gave me a sliver of hope. I answered. I don't mean I reached out and touched the screen. I just willed it. I focused all of my consciousness on the idea of answering that call, and it worked. The ringing stopped. There was a click, a breath of static, and then a voice. It was my own voice. Not like a recording, but like I was talking to myself on the other end of the line. It whispered, a chilling, desperate sound that echoed in the emptiness around me. It said, if you don't wake up now, you never will. That was the ultimatum, the final choice. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a command from the only person I couldn't ignore, myself. I focused on one thing, breathing, the simple act of pulling air into lungs that weren't working. I pictured it in my mind, the muscles contracting, the chest rising. I focused on moving my fingers, on opening my eyes, on living. I pushed against the darkness with everything I had. It was like trying to swim up from the bottom of the deepest ocean, with an immense pressure pushing me down. Every inch was a struggle. It was a fight against the inevitable, a rebellion against the finality of it all. I clung to that whispered warning from my phone, using it as fuel. The flat line broke. The single piercing tone was shattered by a beep, a weak, slow beep. Then another, then shouting, doctors running back into the room. I could hear their surprised voices, a jumble of medical terms and disbelief. We have a rhythm, one of them yelled. The beeping grew stronger, faster, settling into a steady beat. My beat, it was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. It was the sound of a second chance, the sound of coming back. I was still trapped in the darkness, but now there was music, my own heartbeat, playing the song of my return. I woke up hours later. The first thing I felt was the scratchy hospital blanket and the dull ache in my chest. I was alive, really, truly alive. The doctor came in later, his face a mixture of relief and pure confusion. He said it was impossible, medically inexplicable, a 1 in a million anomaly. He called it a miracle. I just nodded, too weak to explain, but my eyes kept drifting to the table beside my bed. My phone was still there. I reached for it, my hand shaking. I turned on the screen, my heart pounding. And there it was, still showing the call log from when I was away. The voicemail was gone. The message from my grandfather had vanished without a trace. The call log was empty, all of it. The unknown number, the frantic notifications, all wiped clean. It was as if none of it had ever happened. A hallucination from a dying brain. Maybe. I almost believed it. Except for one thing. One single entry left behind? A missed call from my own number, time-stamped to the exact minute the doctor had pronounced me dead. Maybe death isn't an ending. Maybe. It's a call you can still answer. Thanks for watching. If you have a story that defies explanation, I'd love to hear it in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more strange stories.